Hello, everybody. I'm glad you're here today. I'm going to get right to it. I'm going to bring you a dream that my dad had on October 15th, 2022. I will just warn you before I start this video that Chloe is in the room with me, my little dog, and I'm not sure what she's going to do. She has a bee in her bonnet today. So we're just going to roll with whatever Chloe does in the background. I want to preface this dream with a couple of things. First of all, my dad lives next door to me. He's 81. I believe this dream is a teaching from God. There is a sense of urgency in this dream towards the end of it. It's not very long, but that's why I wanted to bring it to you today. Also, because my dad is the dreamer, I want the context of the dream is relevant to him. So in this dream, it has to do with fishing. And when he was younger and lived in San Angelo, Texas, he would fish with his brothers, and they would be on the bank of the creek, and they would use shrimp, and they would fish on the bottom. Now, when you fish on the bottom, you just throw the line out there, and you have a sinker on your line, and it sinks and holds it down. The weight of it holds it so that the bait just is on the bottom, and then you catch something, but you sit and wait after you cast it. So that's for frame of reference as I tell you this dream. I do think it's relevant in the interpretation. I will just say, if this does not resonate with you, you need to square this up with the Holy Spirit in your mind and heart. I can only bring it to you. I already have spoken to God about it, and I already have squared it with Him. I do believe this is from Him. It's teaching us that we're living in very serious times right now. I'm also sharing this with you under the umbrella of a nuclear threat right now. We're at October 27th, 2022 is today. So in future, when we look back at this time, I don't know what we'll remember about this day. But for one thing, we are closer to nuclear war than we ever have been before, even the Cuban Missile Crisis. We are also seeing the chessboard of the world move, setting up World War III. That is my opinion. If you have another opinion, you are welcome to share it or just click off and move on. So, my dad's dream, October 15th, 2022. I have been in prayer about this before I even started the video. So, I'm not going to take up your time with that. Please pray on it yourself privately. My dad was baiting a hook with shrimp. And he was with a group of other people fishing along a stream. And he looked to his left, and there was a group of men, a group of fishermen standing on the bank, all lined up, and they were all fishing in one spot, and they were not catching anything. So my dad thought, well, I don't want to go over there. They're not catching anything. So he had his rod and reel, and he looked to the right, and he saw a small pond. And he thought, well, I'll go try that place over there. So he went over there to see what he could catch. And he baited his hook, and he saw movement in the water, like there might be some fish in there. So he baited his hook, cast in his line, and pretty soon he got a hit, and he set the hook and caught it. And he could tell it was a huge fish, just a really big fish. And so he started reeling it in, and the rod was bending, and for a little bit the fish was winning, and then he was winning. The struggle was back and forth, and he noticed the line was stretched tight, and it was like he was reeling in on a fly reel. And so the reel was getting thick with line, and it was nearly running over the side of the reel, and it would have tangled. And there was a man that said, be careful, the line doesn't slip off the reel. And then, as he kept reeling it in, he pulled the fish onto shore. Somebody took the hook out of the fish. And my dad grabbed the tail, kind of like, pick the fish up like this and gently just let it swim back in the pond and swim away. He released it. Then the dream changed, and he had this unbelievable sense of urgency to get to class. He had to get to class. It started at 11 o'clock, and to be late was unacceptable. So he got to class on time, and he was relieved about that. And there was a woman teacher, and she stood up, and the class was full of boys, a group of boys. And the woman teacher said, Billy has volunteered to blank. There was my dad couldn't remember what it was. And she said, who will help him? And the whole class raised their hands, including my dad, and volunteered to help him. And that was the end of the dream. Now, here's my interpretation of the dream. First of all, the thought occurred to me, of course, about Jesus and Peter, Andrew, James, and John on the seashore, and throw your nets on the other side, and I'll make you fishers of men. All of the fisherman references that that's in the Bible, that Jesus uses to teach us about his ways and the way we should be. So that all struck me with this. As I was talking to my dad about this morning, just a while ago, something my mom even said was, number one, make sure you're using good bait. So if we are supposed to be fishermen and trying to catch fish to Christ, to Christianity, make sure your bait is effective. Also, don't be surprised as you're fishing for people to show them the ways of Jesus. Don't be surprised if there's a group of people standing along the bank to your left. And let me tell you, it is very foolish to fish in one spot over and over and never catch anything. Move to another place. Cast in another area. I like to fish. And I have been in situations where the people I was fishing with were catching fish on both sides, and I would cast exactly where they were. And in fact, I would ask them, what are you using for bait? How heavy is the weight on your line? How high up from the hook is your weight? Those kinds of things. If they were catching fish, I wanted to know what they were doing, what their techniques were. In this dream, my dad is catching a huge fish in a little bitty pond. Okay, it's not even a place that you might find people in unexpected places that might want to follow Christ. That's another thing about this dream. But the men watched my dad reel in this huge fish and never once asked him, what are you using for bait? How heavy is your line? What kind of weight do you have? How high up from the bait is your bubble? It just didn't. So don't be surprised if that's part of your church experience, part of the institutional church experience. I believe, once again, and I just think I hope I'm not sounding redundant, but there is a remnant, I believe, of believers. They will not look like institutional church in the future, even in the now. Things are changing very quickly right now in our world. So I also think that my dad was fishing on the bottom. Sometimes we will have more success in winning souls to Christ if we go to where people need the bait the most. You might find the most response there to the gospel story. That's just a thought. That may be what this dream is teaching. Another thing, there was a back and forth with the fish. So it is a process. And when you fish on the bottom, you have to be patient and wait and sit quietly. Sometimes we have to work with people for a very long time and gently show them who Jesus is. And that takes time. It really does. And patience. I don't know, and y'all, you're going to have to help me with this because y'all, I learned so much from your comments, and thank you so much for taking the time to even post a comment. I read every single one of them and learn from them, and am encouraged by your kind words. But why did my dad put the fish back into the pond? I don't understand that part necessarily. Except maybe the message of Christ is not, it's meant to be shared. It's not meant to be held on to your own. I don't know. That's a thought that came to me. What do y'all think? Why did he do that? Now then, when the dream changed, and I cannot tell y'all, I mean, I was just over at my house talking to my dad. He said there was this indescribable sense of urgency that he had to get to class. It was starting at 11. Now, I know 11 can mean many things in a dream. A lot of you are saying 11 can mean November, the 11th month. Yeah, I'm down for that. Maybe it does. 11 can mean chaos, And maybe that's what this means. 11th hour, meaning we're getting close to the end, to end times, to Jesus' return. I don't know when Jesus is returning, and he's not sharing that with me, mainly because he's more interested in my faith than me knowing every detail of his return. Having faith that he's going to return is the most important thing. But my dad had this sense of urgency. 11 o'clock. There was a group of boys. At first, the first time my dad told me this dream, I was real frustrated that he couldn't remember. Billy has volunteered to. I was like, can you not remember what Billy was going to volunteer to do? Because maybe that would give us all insight, But he was like, no, that I cannot. And she said, who will help him? And everybody raised their hand. I think today, it just dawned on me. Billy is all of us, maybe. That's what that means. And we all have a task. We all have a purpose in the kingdom. And it clearly, following Christ and being part of his army is is a voluntary basis. He does not make us follow him. That he does not dominate us and enslave us to his ways. He gently teaches us the ways of his love and his better ways. So I think that that's supposed to be blank. Who will help him? Everyone in the class raised their hands. We are all supposed to help each other get to the end, endure to the end, cross the finish line. Don't look back. Paul says that in Philippians 3. Just keep your eyes on Christ, and that's in Philippians 2, but in Philippians 3, run your own race. Keep your eyes ahead of you on the finish line. Don't get bogged down with what's happened in your past, and we can all help each other cross that line. There is a sense of urgency. Y'all, time is running out. Every day that goes by is a day closer to Christ's return. No, I don't know when it is. Live like it's going to be in the next 30 seconds. I don't know what else to tell you, except he's coming back to get us. And heaven is a wonderful place. And I would encourage you to cry out to Christ and follow him and learn his ways. There's freedom there. There's freedom. Open your Bibles and read it. Be fishers of men and be patient with people and recognize there's going to be a group. They're not really into what you're doing. Ignore them. Keep fishing. Keep fishing. And it's all going to be good. It's all going to be good. My dad has dreamt 2 more dreams that are amazing. I want to bring them to you in the next couple of days, Lord willing. And especially the one I'm going to bring to you over the weekend has to do with right now and what's happening in Europe. So I'll leave you with that. Please comment. What do you think? Why did he let the fish go? I don't know. Help me figure that out, gang. I have no idea. I love all of you, and I pray for all of you. Please continue to pray for me because I'm not real confident in this quite yet. So I ask you to please keep me in your prayers and forgive my clumsiness. I'm just doing what I think God's told me to do. That's all I got. This is Gina Lima Charlie. I'm out.